So today we're going to be talking about the United States and is it doomed? Now this is going to be kind of a newer video that I haven't really done before, but we're going to be talking about the upcoming US election, the effects that's going to have on the country and ultimately the world as well. So if you do enjoy it and you want to see more videos just like this one, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That support once again is going to help out new ideas like this, but it also helps me out in the channel. We're trying to hit 200k by the end of the year. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin our discussion. All right, so like I said, we're going to be talking about the presidential election that's happening in November at the end of the year. And for this video, we'll be looking at a map of the US because I'm also going to be kind of doing predictions per state and like which state will go to which candidate as of right now. And probably for the foreseeable future, the two candidates are on the Democratic side, Joe Biden, and on the Republican side, Donald Trump. Now, how do we end up with the candidates again from 2020? Well, I'll tell you how: the two-party system. If you're not American, then you most likely have a multi-party system. If you are American, we have the two-party system, which absolutely sucks. It leads to what we have here, which is the same candidates from 2020, and it leads to a lack of diversity in terms of politics. You're either a Democrat or a Republican or a conservative and a liberal. There's two parties, two options. Of course, there are some smaller third-party options. There's like the Green Party. Those parties almost never win, and it's been years since it happened. I think the last third-party candidate to win the presidential election was Theodore Roosevelt, and that was all the way back in 1901. So what does this have to do with the US and being cooked, doomed to fall? Well, whether you like it or not, and no matter who you support, you need to recognize that both of these candidates aren't really fit for office. On one side, you have someone who is way past their prime and is not fully mentally there, and then you have someone who is a convicted felon. So when you think US president, you usually don't think those two options. You think of someone who is fit for office and someone who abides by the law. But in this case, our candidates slash options are neither of those. RFK is an interesting prospect for a candidate. I don't think that he is popular enough or well known enough. I don't think he gets enough media attention, but he's probably the most fit out of the three. I don't know if he's the best out of the three, but we're not going to talk about him because he's irrelevant. He's not going to win anything. He's not going to win any states. But yeah, so once again, America, how is it cooked? Well, once again, these candidates aren't great. And like I said, no matter what side you're on, you have to come to that realization before this election. Neither of them are good. So on the world stage, both candidates have very different views on how to address certain situations. The left, or Joe Biden, tends to be a little bit more open and friendly with allies such as NATO countries. Also a lot more supportive of foreign countries like Ukraine and Israel. Although Israel is more of an interesting scenario, we'll talk about that when we get to the other side. But as of right now, the current administration is also focused on, they're kind of containing and isolating Russia, and that's because of the Ukraine war. The sanctions that the West has put on Russia. And then China, it's interesting with China. I don't really think there's like an approach that's like too different by each candidate. I don't know, it's been weird with China. And then Taiwan has become an interesting subject in recent years, so we'll see how that plays out if a candidate change does happen in this election. So now we look at the other side. We look at Trump and his, approach towards the world. As we know, there was rumors that, the US wanted to pull out of NATO during his administration. I don't know how true that is. But if the US did leave NATO, that's not very good for NATO. It is true, he has stated that the US does kind of carry its weight in NATO. It kind of carries the other countries as well. Very few of the NATO countries actually meet the payment requirement, although it is getting better. I think Germany was one of them, and there's really not many else. But I do agree that all NATO countries should probably carry their weight in the alliance, but I don't think that the US should leave NATO, and that's for the common interest of both that country and all of Europe, because if NATO collapses, Russia, as we saw with Ukraine, is just going to start sucking up countries. But hey, some people might be in support of that, and in support of America first. I do want to talk about the current polling situation. Now, polls, they can either be trusted or they cannot be trusted. In the 2016 election, we saw that polling had Hillary Clinton winning by a lot, winning Ohio and Florida. She did not win either of those states, and she lost. So, trust in polling has been a lot less, and that's an okay reason, but I don't think people should abandon it completely because it's accurate when it's accurate. It wasn't horrible in the 2020 election, but 2016 was really bad. So looking at 538 here, we can see their projection. Currently right now, Joe Biden is a 0.2 favorite to win the presidential election. And yeah, that's just a recent thing. Since March at least, Trump has been winning the polls, but as of 2 days ago, Joe Biden overtook him. 2 days ago for me, probably a week and 2 days ago for you guys, because this is a pre-recorded video. I'm on vacation right now. We can all see that Kennedy is at 9%. that's actually higher than I thought it was. I knew that he was popular compared to other third-party candidates, but I didn't think it was that popular. It still doesn't change the fact that he's not going to win any states, or he's not going to get that many votes. We can also look at the different polls down here. There's a lot of them, like The Economist, Fox News, the New York Post. Those are the sponsors of these polls, and that's also like kind of, you know, the leaning. You know, Fox News is a fairly conservative network compared to the New York Post, which is fairly liberal. But as of right now, they all have Biden winning. And if we can go back in time with this, then you'll see that it changes. But yeah, polling is always an interesting thing to look at. I think when the election starts getting closer, I'm going to do more and more kind of election videos, because it's a big election and American elections are always fun to look at, especially like if you're not from America and just kind of peeping into the chaos. I think that could probably be fun, but for us, it's not that fun because there is no winner in November. I think either way, whoever wins, it's just the US's projection is going to continue to go downwards until we eventually get a leader that's competent and capable. We haven't really had that in the past 8 years, and it looks like it's going to continue on for another 4 years. And once again, it doesn't really matter who's elected. I don't think either of them are qualified for position of president. So let's talk about a prediction. I think that I want to do my projection as of right now in June of 21st of 2024. I'm going to throw down the safe states for each side. So, you know, you have your traditionally safe Republican and traditionally safe Democrat. California is almost always a safe state for Democrats. So is DC and Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Vermont. Then you also have Illinois, and honestly, I think I might be for Hawaii. So as of right now, I think these are the safest states, safest bets for Democrats. Like, there's on the political spectrum in America, there's like 4 brackets per side. You have your safe, you have your very likely, your likely, and your leaning. And on the other side, you know, you have your leaning, your likely, your very likely, and then your safe. So these are all of the safe states for the left. Now we'll look at the safe states for the right. And these are your traditional southern states: Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, I want to say Utah, Idaho, both Dakotas, Wyoming, and I want to say Oklahoma as well, and I think Kansas, although I could definitely be wrong about that. But these are the safe states for the right. Now we can take a look at what I think is the, you know, heavily leaning states. I think that would be Washington. We have New York, Minnesota, and honestly, I think that's going to be it. Honorable mention real quick, I forgot West Virginia is always a safe Republican state. But now we look at the most likely for the red. In this case, I think it's Missouri, South Carolina, and I also believe that's it for the most likely. Now we can look at the likely, and then we'll get into the leaning, which is always like the battleground states. So our likely states for the left include Oregon, it includes New Mexico, and that's it. Now we can take a look at the likely states for the right. It includes Montana, Nebraska, Iowa, and Indiana, as well as Ohio. Oh, and also Texas and Alaska. I keep forgetting states. Honestly, I do think that Louisiana, instead of being likely, I think it's most likely. So we're going to flip them back over to that. And now we're left with our battleground states. This is the battleground states that happened in 2020. I don't think too much has changed to really change what the battleground states are. I think Virginia and Florida, I wouldn't call them battleground states in 2020. And honestly, I don't really know if they're battleground states now. I think Virginia definitely is more so. Florida is probably a little bit more safer for the right, but we're going to be including them anyway. So now we have our slightly leaning for each side. These are the states that could flip back and forth between now and June. I don't really think I'm going to be solely basing this on polls, just more so of my prediction and what I think would happen as of today. So starting with our left-leaning states, I think Colorado sticks it out, stays on the left. I think that is also said for New Hampshire. And honestly, for Virginia, I mean, I live here, so I think I have a better sense than most, but it could really go either way. I think it mostly depends on what happens from now to then. But something to consider, when Glenn Youngkin, our current governor, was elected in 2021, there was not a lot of turnout on the left that led to him being elected. Now people are realizing that, hey, voting is important. So I think this year around, more people will vote in the urban areas, the left-leaning areas. So ultimately, I do think Virginia slightly leans to the left again. But now we have a bunch of states, and we're going to do the right-leaning side too. So these are states that are, you know, once again, battleground states, and they can go either way. But as you can tell by the not very large amount of states that I had left-leaning, the most of these guys are going to go over to the right, and that would probably put Trump as the winner in the 2024 election. Now, of course, Florida is going to go to the right. Florida has become very conservative in recent years. North Carolina is an interesting state. They're kind of like Virginia, but on the opposite side of the spectrum. So, you know how Virginia is, it's been trending left-leaning. North Carolina has been trending right-leaning. So they're kind of the same, but for the opposite party. But I do think they go back to the right. And also, Maine and Nebraska are divided up into districts. If you don't understand the American election system, this isn't going to make any sense, so just skip forward. But the different districts vote in Nebraska and Maine. And we're going to do the overall vote, like which side gets the most electoral votes. So in Nebraska, it would be the right. And in Maine, I think it's also going to be the right. They would win the majority of electoral votes in Maine. And now we're left with like the battleground states. These are the states that are traditionally battleground states in every election, at least recently. It wasn't too long ago that Iowa and Florida were also like these guys, but times have changed. So starting off in the West Coast, Nevada and Arizona. Arizona has become very left-leaning recently. I don't know if that's undone here. Honestly, I think Arizona could go either way. But as of right now, Donald Trump is he's a 2.7 point favorite, which is pretty generous. So I'll put them in the victory for the right. Nevada has been trending pretty neutral recently. They used to be a lot more left-leaning, but they're trending toward the right now. I think they also flip over to the right. And now we go to the Georgia. These guys are very interesting. I had them going to the right in 2020. That didn't end up happening. They actually went slightly left. And I actually had North Carolina going to the Democrats, but I was wrong. I had everything else right. I was completely right in my prediction, aside from these two. I had them backwards. And this is not my official prediction. This is my early prediction. I'll do another one closer to the election. I'll do it on the channel so I can have like a documentation of it, and we'll see how close I am. But like I said, Georgia was a surprise flip in 2020, but here I don't think they remain. I think they go back over to the right. And now we get to probably the most important area in the country, at least it was for the past 8 years, the Rust Belt. These states like to flip back and forth a lot. In 2016, they flipped to the right. In 2020, they flipped to the left. In 2024, I think it will be a little bit different. So for the past two elections, they've all voted the same candidate. I think it's going to be a little bit more mixed up this year. The most important of these states is Pennsylvania. They have the most electoral votes. In 2020, they were the deciding state to officially give Joe Biden his victory. Here, I think they flip back right. I guess not flip back right, but flip to the right. And I think that at that point, that would give Donald Trump the official victory. But now going to the other two states, Michigan and Wisconsin, these guys are a lot closer in terms of who would win. Michigan is always an interesting one. There's always something happening in Michigan, but here I do think they stay blue. And then there's Wisconsin. Wisconsin is hard to predict. I had them barely going to the left in 2020. And they did barely go to the left, but it was a lot closer than I thought it was. But here, I think they go right. At this very point in time, Joe Biden does lead in both of these states. He doesn't lead in Pennsylvania, but he does lead in Wisconsin, so that might go against what is currently realistic. So yeah, this is going to be my if it happened today map. It's going to change from now to then. A lot of states were going to flip back and forth, but if it happened today, I think this is how it goes down. Obviously, electoral votes are a factor. Non-Americans, it's not going to make any sense. But in this scenario, Donald Trump does win. And I think probably by a lot. I don't know, I would have to count up all the electoral votes. Each state has a different amount of electoral votes. We don't go by popular vote, even though we probably should go by popular vote. But yeah, that's just how it's done. So this would be my prediction. And like I said, this isn't going to be a video breaking down either candidate, because that's not what we're talking about. I've already addressed and stated that both candidates are bad. I do have my preference in candidate. I'm not going to be sharing that here because, you know, I just don't want to. None of your business. I'm a lot more involved in politics than people might think, you know, because I do history and maps and stuff, but politics is also my thing. I was thinking about majoring in politics in college, but I don't know if I'm doing that. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Brace yourself, Americans, for this election, and brace yourself for the 4 years that follow it. No matter who wins, it's going to be tough. It's going to suck, and we'll see what happens. You know, I saw a post saying that the average age for an empire is 250 years, and America is 248 years old. I think 249, 248, something like that. So yeah, that's funny, but who knows? So yeah, this has been my analysis / breakdown. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to let me know. I think regardless, I'm going to do content like this in the future just for this election cycle. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Mr. Bonk7, Patrick Clauser, Switzerland Lowell Productions, German Edits, Georgie Badev, Kylie Speaks Plays, HammerToad45, Connor the Gamer, Poland Country Ball, Yakko, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.